Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, the Honorable Chancellors of the Chancery Courts of Davidson County, 20th Judicial District, State of Tennessee, finding it fit and proper to do so, meet in special session outside of the courthouse at the request of the President and the Board of Directors of the Nashville Bar Association to entertain resolutions in memory of former members of the Nashville Bar Association recently deceased. All persons present are asked to draw nigh and give attention so the memorial resolutions to be presented may be heard. God save the Honorable Chancery Courts of Davidson County, the state of Tennessee, and these United States. The Honorable Ann C. Martin, Chancellor Part 2, presiding. Please be seated.
Good morning. Welcome to the Nashville Bar Association 2025 Spring Memorial Service. I'm Chancellor Ann Martin. I'm joined by my fellow chancellors, Pat Moskal, Aisha Miles, and Russell Perkins today. Our clerk and master is Maria Salas, who just opened court. The Chancery Court of Davidson County is honored to preside at this service. A testament to the importance of this occasion is that this is the only proceeding in which the chancellors preside together as a panel. It's a time when we leave the courthouse and the law offices and join with friends and family in this historic and lovely sanctuary. It's a time when we chronicle and reflect upon the lives of the attorneys recognized today and the bonds we share with them through the practice of law in Nashville. By a long-standing tradition of more than 100 years, the Chancery Court keeps the records of the Nashville Bar Association memorial services. Each lawyer who passed away during the preceding period is honored and memorialized by their colleagues through a written resolution that is entered upon the books and records of the Chancery Court. A colleague of each lawyer being remembered will come forward to present the memorial resolution and move for its admission. The court will reserve ruling on the motions until all resolutions are presented. The chancellors recognize and express our condolences to the attorneys presenting the memorial resolutions and the other family and friends who are here today in remembrance of those that they've lost. We also thank the Nashville Bar Association for making this service possible, and we are grateful to have had as colleagues those being memorialized.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joseph Hubbard, and I have the honor to serve as the president of the Nashville Bar Association. I'd like to welcome all of you here today and thank you for coming, all the guests, family, friends, colleagues, everyone in this room. You do us a great honor by being here today and by memorializing the attorneys who passed away. Some years ago, when I was a younger and more naive lawyer, I regarded this event as something for the close friends and family only of those who had passed away. And I began to come several years ago and was incredibly amazed by the accomplishments and the rich layers of life that the memorialized members of our bar received. They were president of nearly everything they were involved in, leaders in everything they were involved in their life. They served on their church boards. They served in the military. They were in leadership positions in the bar and in our community. And it's just been an incredible lesson for me about how to live a life and how to live one with achievement and accomplishment, where those who love you will miss you dearly when you're gone and will memorialize you with wonderful words. So thank you so much for being here. As a last word, we want to invite you to a reception that we'll have after this event concludes down in the fellowship hall. We have a barbecue lunch provided by an anonymous donor, and we'd like you all to join us there if you can. Thank you all for being here.
On the back of the program, below the list of the members of the Memorial Service Committee, is a note dedicating this service to our friend Vicki Shoulders. Vicki was not a lawyer, but she did so much for Nashville lawyers that it's difficult to fully express all she did for us. For 24 years, Vicki was usually the first person who welcomed you when you came to a memorial service or went to the Nashville Bar Association office. Vicki answered the phone when you called the Nashville Bar. She greeted you at the Nashville Bar annual meeting and she greeted you at the Nashville Bar's picnic. For the Memorial Service Committee, Vicki would read the obituaries in the paper each day and make copies for us. Vicki prepared spreadsheets and kept after us to follow up on the progress or the lack of progress in the preparation of memorial resolutions. Vicki coordinated with the church. She ordered the flowers. She prepared the programs. She sent invitations. She coordinated with the clerk and master and the chancellors. And she grieved with us when we lost a colleague. Today, as we honor and remember our friends and colleagues, we ask that you also remember Vicki Shoulders. The memorial resolution for Kirk Scobie will be presented by Ralph DeMarco.
Kirk Scobie was the first baby born on Father's Day in Davidson County in 1942, when Nashville was much smaller and time simpler, and the Tennessean felt such an event was newsworthy. Kirk was the child of his namesake Mason Kirkpatrick Scobie and Biddy Gibson, who later gave birth to a brother Bill. Both attended Peabody Demonstration School and graduated from Hillsborough High School. Kirk went on to finish George Peabody College in 1964. His first job out of college was Commerce Union Bank, and he eventually became Senior Vice President of Personal Trust. At Ken Roberts' encouragement, Kirk attended National School of Law night classes and passed the Tennessee Bar in 1974. He was a classmate of mine at the National School of Law. During these years, he married Nancy Buckingham and had 4 children, Elisa, Todd, Pam, and Russ. When in the late 1970s divorce was imminent, Kirk maintained custody of his 4 kids. In 1983, Kirk married Nancy Kindig. After 27 years with Commerce Union Bank and its successors, he, along with prominent Nashvillians Tom Steele and Bill Carmack, formed a startup trust company, Equitable Trust Company. In 2012, Kirk retired from his daily activities as president and moved to Destin, Florida. He continued to serve on the board as vice chairman through the end of 2022. Tennis was Kirk's favorite pastime, and he was an avid player until 2023. He, along with his wife, enjoyed travel, fine dining, and good wines. They enjoyed entertaining friends and family. Kirk was preceded in death by his parents and survived by his wife and soulmate, Nancy Kindig, all 4 of his children, 6 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, his brother, and a nephew. Kirk was a courteous man with high ideals and honorable yet humble ambitions. Those traits, along with his constant fixed purpose, allowed him to admirably shepherd widows and beneficiaries. He was a valuable source of trust knowledge and creative solutions. He is missed by all who knew him. Kirk passed away July 21, 2023 at the age of 81. Therefore, be it resolved by the Nashville Bar Association that we honor the life, the work, and the spirit of Mason Kirk Scobie and mourn his passing and the loss of an outstanding colleague. Be it further resolved that his memorial resolution be placed in the permanent records of the association and entered in the in memoriam minute book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, and that copies thereof be furnished to members of his family. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for Roy A. Miles Jr. will be presented by Randy Miles.
May it please the court, Roy Miles Jr. was born June 22nd, 1928, and passed away May 29th, 2024. He was 13 years old when World War II broke out, and like many of his contemporaries, at the age of 16, he joined the Army National Guard. The war ended as he finished high school at Montgomery Bell Academy, and he immediately started to attend Vanderbilt University, where he met my mother and eventually went to law school. About halfway through law school, he was offered a commission as a second lieutenant if he would switch from the Army National Guard to the Air National Guard, which he did. Due to the Korean conflict, 2 weeks later, he was called to active duty. But no worries, he was stationed in Châteauroux, France, a little bit away from the fighting. He married my mother right before being deployed, and they spent the first 18 months of their marriage living with other families in a chateau in France, which must have been hard on him. He completed law school after returned from active duty, and he began his career at his dad's law firm after he converted made a makeshift office out of a large storage closet. Once he started earning a living, he turned his attention towards home ownership and family, and he couldn't afford to buy a house, so he bought a lot in Westmead, borrowed $4,000 from his father-in-law, drew up a set of plans, and with anybody he could recruit, built the house that I grew up in, except for the plumbing and the masonry work. In 1975, when he built his retirement house in rural Rutherford County, he had 3 teenage boys that he conscripted to be his labor force. For most of his career, Dad maintained a general civil practice. He joined the Nashville Bar, the Tennessee Bar, the American Bar Associations. He was an active member of a number of other clubs and civic organizations, including serving a term as local chapter president of the American Kidney Foundation and being a 32nd degree Mason. Dad had 2 wives, both of whom he buried. The first was my mother, Martha Carolyn Rust Miles, who died on July 1, 1995. They had 4 children, Roy A. Miles III, Littell Rust Miles, me, John R. Miles, and Carolyn Ellen Miles Smith. A few years after Mom died, Dad was introduced to a lady who was a widow. Her name was Evelyn Underwood. She was a truly exceptional woman, and he had the good sense to marry her as well. Dad's marriage to Evelyn lasted until she passed away on October 16, 2021. But after his home and family obligations, which were his top priority, Dad's successful law practice was simply his funding mechanism for his passion for airplanes and flying. He was actually a licensed pilot longer than he was a licensed attorney. He obtained his private pilot's license in 1956. He earned his instrument rating, his multi-engine rating, and his seaplane rating. Over the years, he was a member of various flying clubs and owned several small aircraft. He made 3 air camping adventure trips to Alaska for a couple of weeks at a time, which we have the photographs. Dad quit flying in 2014 and received the FAA Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award for pilots who had flown safely for at least 50 years. Therefore, be it resolved by the Nashville Bar Association that we honor the life of Roy A. Miles Jr. and mourn in his passing a fine attorney, a good father, a devoted husband, and an accomplished pilot who packed all the life he could into his almost 96-year journey here on earth. Be it further resolved that this memorial resolution be placed in the permanent records of the association and entered into the in memoriam minute book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, and that copies thereof be furnished to each of his children. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for Jonathan Augusta will be presented by Rodney Caldwell.
Good morning. Derek Jonathan Augusta died June 5th, 2024. Known as Humboldt to those he was close to before he attended law school, he was a loyal friend, athlete, a scholar, and a huge Tennessee Titans fan. As a 1996 graduate of Humboldt High School, he's a proud member of the football team and competed in the 1995 state championship. Additionally, he was an active member of his church, serving as the youth superintendent and president of the youth department. Derek attended undergrad at the University of Tennessee Martin, where he majored in political science and communications. While in college, he worked various jobs, which included being the campus disc jockey, writing for the campus newspaper, and working as assistant to the chief clerk of the Tennessee House of Representatives. After participating in a Tennessee pre-law fellowship program for 3 summers, he was accepted into the Cecil C. Humphrey School of Law in Memphis, Tennessee in 2003. He was the only African-American student to be inducted into the Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity for the 2003-2004 year. Derek attained his Juris Doctorate from Cecil C. Humphreys in 2006. Upon completing law school, Derek went by his middle name, Jonathan, because he felt it sounded more professional. Jonathan started out his law career by working for attorney LaBelle Glanton in Nashville. When the opportunity arose to become a public defender for the city of Nashville, Jonathan was hired by the late Ross Alderman. There he served for several years representing indigent clients. Subsequently, he transferred his legal skills and knowledge into the world of bankruptcy law. Jonathan worked for the late James Flexer until he decided to fulfill a lifelong dream and start his own law practice. Jonathan's dream came true in 2014 when he formed a partnership with 2 former public defender colleagues and started Eastside Legal in East Nashville. Jonathan worked at his law practice, living out his dream until his passing. Jonathan's infectious laugh, as well as his pursuit for seeking justice for his clients, will be missed amongst his family, friends, loved ones, clients, and the legal community. Therefore, be it resolved by the Nashville Bar Association that we honor the life and work of Derek Jonathan Augusta and mourn in his passing the loss of an advocate for the poor and downtrodden, a caring spirit, optimistic Titans fan, and a man who sought to represent his clients at the highest level of the law. Be it further resolved that this memorial resolution be placed in the permanent records of the association and enter into the in memoriam minute book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, and that copies thereof be furnished to members of his family, his mother Arlene Augusta, and additional members of his family as well. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for Mary Juanita Presley will be presented by Jane Young.
May it please the court. Mary Juanita Presley was born November 30th, 1941, and passed away on July 14th, 2024. Juanita was a Tennessee native growing up in a large household and was one of 8 children. She attended schools in Williamson County and in Lewisburg. She completed her secondary education from the historic Jones Training School in Lewisburg. Juanita attended college at Fisk University and Howard University. She later received her law degree from Georgetown University. During her career as an attorney, Juanita served as counsel for plaintiff in a case alleging race discrimination in the hiring of a football coach in Franklin County, Tennessee. Her co-counsel on appeal was the late Robert Belton, esteemed professor at Vanderbilt Law School. She later worked as an equal employment opportunity manager for Shoney's Restaurants. During her tenure as the EEO manager, she often traveled to conduct investigations about complaints alleging race or sex discrimination. Juanita later moved to the Tennessee Department of Health, where she served as Assistant General Counsel. She handled a variety of matters, primarily responsible for employment matters. Juanita's hard-earned experience was an asset, and her contacts made through the years with federal officials and others proved to be helpful on several occasions. When I joined the Office of General Counsel, I came to appreciate the wisdom that Juanita had gained through her professional and life experiences and learned much from her during late evening discussions after the workday had ended. But of course, Juanita was more than just an attorney. Juanita loved animals, particularly her pet cats. She was faithful to her family caring for her mother until she died. Juanita will be missed by her family and by those of us who benefited from her wisdom. Therefore, be it resolved by the Nashville Bar Association that we honor the life and work of Mary Juanita Presley. Be it further resolved that this memorial resolution be placed in the permanent records of the association and entered in the in memoriam minute book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for Peggy Duncan Mathis will be presented by Judge Randy Kennedy.
If it pleases the court, and ladies and gentlemen, we offer for your consideration this memorial resolution for Peggy Duncan Mathis. Peggy Duncan Mathis died on Sunday, August 4, 2024, at the age of 74 years. Peggy was born on December 2, 1949, at the old St. Thomas Hospital on Church Street, here in Nashville, to Glenn Hendricks and Dorothy Garrett Duncan. Peggy's dad, Glenn Hendricks, grew up in Hickman County and was an employee of the old L&N Railroad at Radnor Yards in Nashville. Peggy's mom, Dorothy Garrett Duncan, was born in Jackson, Tennessee, and she had moved with her parents to Nashville back in 1914. Peggy's dad, Glenn, passed away in 1954 when Peggy was only 5 years old. And her mother, Dorothy, raised Peggy and her two older siblings, her sisters, as a single parent. Peggy's mother worked in the title division of the state of Tennessee Department of Revenue as a title examiner. Now, Peggy grew up on Cantrell Avenue in Nashville, where she attended Woodmont Grammar School, a school that her maternal grandfather had helped to create by raising funds to build it for grades 1 through 8. She then went on to attend Hillsborough High School and graduated as a Hillsborough Borough in 1967. While growing up, Peggy's family attended First Baptist Church in downtown Nashville. After she graduated from Hillsborough, Peggy attended Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky during her freshman year. She then worked for Southern Bell Telephone for a year to earn enough money to attend the University of Alabama. She thereafter received a bachelor's degree from Alabama in 1971, and in 1972, she chose to enroll at the then YMCA Knight School of Law. In 1970, Peggy married a fellow University of Alabama student, Nashvillian Larry Franklin Mathis. And in 1974, while attending law school, Peggy gave birth to her first son, Brent Mathis, and she also opened up a toy store in Franklin, Tennessee. Now, if she wasn't busy enough already, in 1976, Peggy gave birth to her second child, a daughter, Laura Mathis. Peggy went on to graduate from what is now the Nashville School of Law and passed the Tennessee Bar Examination, receiving her license to practice in our state. She then enrolled in the master's program to get an MBA from the University of Tennessee and graduated with her MBA in 1978. Peggy practiced law in Nashville and in surrounding counties for more than 48 years. Peggy began her law practice with Ferris, Warfield, and Canada in Nashville, focusing primarily on family law, as well as some probate. In 1995, however, in 1987, she chose to partner with attorney Ed Highland to form the firm of Highland and Mathis, where she continued her family law practice, but began to do even more probate law. In 1995, their firm grew to become Highland, Mathis, and Urquhart, with the addition of partner Mike Urquhart. Peggy's law practice evolved to the point where she was solely a probate law practitioner whereafter she was appointed by Judge Frank Clement to serve in the position of Public Administrator for Davidson County, Tennessee. She served as our Public Administrator literally until her retirement in 2023 for approximately 28 years. She was the first woman lawyer to serve in the capacity of Public Administrator in our area. And she was absolutely outstanding, and I say that from someone who worked with her on a daily basis in the probate court. Peggy was devoted to family and friends. In 1983, she married a second time, this time to Socrates Ioannidis, and she had her third child, a son, Andrew. Peggy was an avid traveler. She reveled both in the ambitious itineraries abroad that she would go on with both of her sisters and the relaxing oceanside stays that she would have with her children and grandchildren. In fact, I think one of her grandchildren, maybe more, Isadora Eubanks, is here, along with her sister, along with her daughter Laura, and also with her sister, Dorothy Smith, who is here today, her only surviving sister. She enjoyed relaxing oceanside stays with children and grandchildren, but that wasn't enough. She was an avid skier. She played golf. She loved museums, spectacles, and other vacation moments. She valued those opportunities to connect with all of her loved ones. And over the years, Peggy also remained close with her friends from Hillsborough High School. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we honor the life, the work, and the legacy of our dear friend and colleague, Peggy Duncan Mathis. The committee, consisting of Michelle Poss, Keith Turner, and myself, seeks to honor the life and memory of Peggy Duncan Mathis and moves this honorable Chancery Court for the 20th Judicial District of Tennessee to enter this resolution and accept it and spread it upon the pages of the in memoriam book kept for that purpose, to the end that the memory of Peggy Duncan Mathis, our friend and colleague, will forever be perpetuated in the permanent records of our profession and the profession that she served so well, and that copies thereof be furnished to the members of her family. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for Senator James Ralph Sasser will be presented by Wally Dietz.
May it please the court. Joining me in making this motion are Nashville attorneys Erwin J. Kuhn, John S. Wagster, and John Knox Walkup. James Ralph Sasser was born in Memphis, Tennessee on September 30, 1936. He died in Chapel Hill, North Carolina on September 10, 2024. Jim and his sisters moved with their parents, Ralph and Mary Nell Sasser, to Nashville, where he attended Hillsborough High School. He received his BA and JD degrees from Vanderbilt University in 1958 and 1961, respectively. It was in a history class at Vanderbilt where he met his beloved wife, the charming Mary Gorman Sasser. He began his law practice with Good Pasture, Carpenter, Woods, and Sasser in Nashville, while also serving for 6 years in the United States Marine Corps Reserves. But as he said himself, he, quote, caught the political bug working in U.S. Senate campaigns of Estes Kefauver and Albert Gore Sr. Jim was elected chair of the Tennessee Democratic Party in 1973. As party chair, he put together a slate of esteemed lawyers who successfully ran for the Tennessee Supreme Court. Stung by Bill Brock's defeat of Senator Gore in 1970, Jim made plans to run against Brock in 1976, first defeating Nashville attorney John J. Hooker in the Democratic primary, and then defeating Senator Brock by almost 80,000 votes in November. The Gore family was instrumental in that victory, as was a network of farmers and agricultural leaders who worked closely with his father, Ralph Sasser, when Ralph was the head of the Tennessee Soil and Conservation Service. Once in Washington, Senator Sasser earned respect as a serious legislator, calling on his extensive knowledge of U.S. and world history. In his first term, his work focused on his committee assignments, appropriations, and budget. He chaired 2 subcommittees of the Governmental Affairs Committee. This work led to Senator Sasser being recognized as a true master of government with a focus on efficiency and delivering tangible results for people. Alongside his work in Washington, D.C., the senator built a staff across Tennessee dedicated wholeheartedly to constituent service. The senator was equally comfortable talking with a retired worker about a missing Social Security check as he was meeting with senators and presidents on fiscal policy. Both were equally important to Senator Sasser. He was reelected to the Senate in 1982 and 1988. He was proud during those 3 terms to have very good friendships and strong working relationships with senators from both sides of the aisle. Just a few years ago, he commented that he and Senator Howard Baker never had a crossword for each other. Those relationships made him a trusted confidant and advisor. Mary Sasser was his true partner in Washington, D.C. and in Tennessee. During his 3rd term, Senator Sasser was named chair of the Budget Committee. As budget chair, he spearheaded passage of President Clinton's first budget, which reduced the national debt significantly and put the country on a path towards a balanced budget for the first time in a generation. President Clinton called on Senator Sasser to be his ambassador to the People's Republic of China in 1995. Senator Sasser relished the challenge, having just been defeated in his quest for a 4th Senate term. Following demonstrations in Tiananmen Square, relations between the U.S. and China fractured, largely over human rights. Using his Senate-honed ability to negotiate, his down-home affability, and his trusted relationship with the Clinton administration, Sasser helped rescue a flagging relationship between these 2 superpowers. His diplomatic efforts led to a groundbreaking trade deal, multiple deals with the U.S. and China, a U.S. consulate in the newly established Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, and reciprocal state visits between Clinton and Chinese President Jiang Zemin. Ambassador Sasser's time in China was marred by an errant NATO attack aimed at autocratic Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic in Belgrade, which struck the Chinese embassy by mistake. For 4 days, tens of thousands of Chinese protesters surrounded the embassy in Beijing, hurling rocks at the embassy. Windows were shattered, cars were destroyed, and Senator Sasser, his family, and staff all feared for their safety. A photo of Ambassador Sasser looking out of a broken window out of the embassy appeared worldwide. Soon after the protests subsided, Ambassador Sasser left his office. His retirement had been scheduled long before the attack on the embassy. After retiring as ambassador, he was a visiting professor at the George Washington University, then became a Washington-based business consultant to businesses in both China and the United States. Later, he served as a fellow at the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard and taught at the University of North Carolina, where he and Mary settled after leaving Washington. Mary Sasser survives, as does their son, Nashville attorney Gray Sasser, and daughter Elizabeth Sasser of Chapel Hill, 2 sisters, Jo Marilyn O'Brien and Phyllis Donnelly, and 4 grandchildren, Martha Gray and Hayden Sasser, and Atticus and Ella Parrott. Therefore, be it resolved by the Nashville Bar Association that we honor the life and work of James Ralph Sasser and mourn in his passing the loss of a true public servant whose life touched so many. Lawyer, U.S. Senator, Ambassador, Professor, friend, mentor, world traveler, husband, father, and grandfather. We were lucky to have had him and will always miss him dearly. Be it further resolved that this memorial resolution be placed in the permanent records of the Bar Association and entered in the in memoriam minute book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee. and that copies thereof be furnished to his wife, Mary Sasser, his son, Grace Sasser, and his daughter, Elizabeth Sasser, this 22nd day of May, 2022. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for John Richard Dick Lodge Jr. will be presented by Bob Cooper.
May it please the court, it is my honor to present a resolution in honor of the memory of John Richard Lodge Jr. Whereas J. Richard Dick Lodge Jr. was a respected attorney and government relations professional for 47 years, a member of the Lodge Manufacturing Company Board of Directors for 42 years, an esteemed officer and member of the University of the South's Board of Regents, and a friend to many in the Nashville Bar and on Capitol Hill. And whereas after being born in Suwanee, Tennessee on June 16, 1949, Dick spent his childhood in many places, from Tennessee to Alabama to the wilds of Alaska, while his father served as rector of various Episcopal churches, ultimately graduating from Escambia County High School in Atmore, Alabama. And whereas Dick returned to the mountain for college and received his undergraduate degree from his beloved Suwanee, the University of the South, in 1971. And whereas Dick continued his education at the Vanderbilt University School of Law, graduating in 1974. And whereas after law school, Dick was called to public service, and he began his legal career in the Tennessee Attorney General's office, where he served until 1976. And whereas an encounter with a U.S. Senate candidate in 1976 sparked what became his lifelong passion for politics and the political process. And whereas upon Jim Sasser's election to the U.S. Senate, Dick moved to Washington, D.C. to become Senator Sasser's first legislative director and chief advisor, a move that proved fateful, for it was there he met his future wife and political soulmate, Virginia Tyler Heiser, who was working for Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan of New York. And whereas upon returning to Nashville with Jenna, Dick was elected chair of the Tennessee Democratic Party in 1983, a position he held for 5 years. And whereas as party chair, Dick was a man of ideas and bold action, famously stating, "When your dog bites you 4 or 5 times, it's time to get a new dog." We've been bitten, and it's time for the South to get a new dog, an observation he made as leader of the Southern States Committee, which created the Super Tuesday primary election system that reshaped the American political landscape. And whereas Dick joined the law firm of Bass, Berry & Sims, PLC, in 1985 and made it his professional home for 43 years until his retirement in 2018. And whereas at Bass, Berry & Sims, Dick was a gifted strategist and counselor who served his clients and the firm with passion, steadiness, and integrity, and who, at varying times, served on the firm's executive committee, chaired its litigation department, and led its government relations practice with an unshakable calm, a pragmatic approach to problem solving, and a regard for his colleagues that earned him the respect of everyone, regardless of their position. And whereas Dick was an engaged citizen and served his community in many ways, including as senior warden at Christ Church Cathedral, as president of Legal Services of Middle Tennessee, as Mayor Phil Bredesen's choice in 1995 to be chairman of the newly formed Nashville Sports Authority, and at Thistle Farms, where his legal and strategic counsel helped guide that organization from its early stages to become the nationally recognized model for rehabilitation it is today. And whereas Dick was especially devoted to Suwanee, serving on its Board of Regents for several terms with pride and purpose, the university embodied the intersection of religion, spirituality, and learning that guided Dick's personal and professional life. His family's multi-generational devotion to the Episcopal Church, paired with his own spiritual commitment, was the compass Dick used for his broad-reaching service. And whereas Dick was generous, had a keen mind, a stentorian baritone, a magnetic sense of humor, and a devotion to mentoring new generations of lawyers, political figures, and community leaders. While his advocacy was marked by strength and conviction, His heart overflowed with quiet kindness and understanding, always extended to those in need. Whereas Dick was a fiercely loyal friend, known for saying to those facing life's challenges, "Come on over for dinner, and we'll figure it out." Dick and Jenna's home was always a haven of warmth, wit, and good food, where the reminder not to stay too late was always delivered gently. Whereas, despite his commanding presence, Dick was a true baby whisperer. Within his arms, even the fussiest of infants was almost instantly soothed, making him a true hero to weary parents, particularly when he would also hand them a perfectly roasted chicken he had just whipped up. And whereas Dick and Jenna shared an admirable and obvious partnership rooted in a shared curiosity, good humor, love, and mutual respect, Dick was immensely proud of Jenna's accomplishments, regularly referring to her as the Commissioner, following her service as the Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Human Services under Governor Phil Bredesen. Outside of politics, they traveled the world together, always studying the histories and cultures of the places they visited. And whereas, while a true son of Tennessee, Dick's childhood years in Alaska, particularly his love of the outdoors and wildlife, stayed with him, which was made clear by the pair of binoculars kept in his law office for any bird-watching opportunities that might arise. And whereas Dick is survived by his beloved wife of 46 years, Virginia Jenna Tyler Lodge, their children, Sarah Lodge Talley and her husband Trey, and Richard Matthew Lodge and his wife Rachel, grandchildren, Virginia Frances Talley, Earl Burton E.B. Talley IV, John Richard Jack Lodge II, and Josephine Bright Lodge, siblings David Lodge and his wife Andrea, Sarah A. Lodge, and Henry Lodge and his wife Donna, a host of nieces, nephews, great-nieces, great-nephews, and a legion of grateful friends who will treasure the memories of many happy times spent within Dick's company. Whereas Dick Lodge leaves behind a legacy of intellect, grace, wit, service, compassion, and devotion to his loved ones, his friends, and his community, now therefore be it resolved that we express our appreciation and gratitude for the extraordinary life of J. Richard Dick Lodge, Jr., reflecting with deep admiration on his profound contributions as a public servant, attorney, mentor, husband, father, grandfather, and friend. Be it further resolved that this resolution be placed in the permanent records of the Nashville Bar Association and entered into the In Memoriam Minute Book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, and that a copy thereof be furnished to Mr. Lodge's family. Joining in this motion are Lauren Gaffney, Tori Johnson, Erica Penley, Brant Phillips, and Catherine Walker. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for Ben Rowan will be presented by Van East.
May it please the court, I'm Van East of the Nashville Bar Association. I'm also the son-in-law of Ben Rowan. I've been married to his oldest daughter, Kathy, since June 1 of 1985, and I'm honored to present this resolution on behalf of our family. Ben Hardin Rowan II of Nashville, Tennessee, left this world peacefully on October 19, 2024, at the age of 86. Ben's life was one marked by integrity, leadership, devotion to family, and excellence in his many endeavors. Ben was born in Nashville on March 19 in 1938, the son of William Hardin Rowan Sr. and Elizabeth Lowry Rowan. He was a star athlete and scholar at Peabody Demonstration School, where he served as student body president and excelled in basketball and track. At Vanderbilt University, where he earned his undergraduate and law degrees, he distinguished himself as a student athlete, ROTC captain, and a leader among his peers. He continued to serve his country as an Army lieutenant before embarking on his legal career. Ben began the practice of law in 1964, joining Watkins, McGugan, McNeely, and Rowan. He became a respected partner, known for his deep understanding of the law, sound judgment, and unwavering commitment to his clients and colleagues. Beyond his practice, Ben contributed generously to the legal profession and the community, serving on the board of directors of the Nashville Bar Association, chairing the Admission to Practice Law Committee, and leading within the Tennessee Defense Lawyers Association. Outside of the law, Ben devoted his life to his family, faith, and community. A lifetime deacon and a long-serving Sunday school teacher at Emmanuel Baptist Church, he lived out his faith in service to others. He was a dedicated supporter and trustee of Brentwood Academy, where he gave his time as a coach and an announcer, and where his enduring impact continues to be left. His warmth, humor, and loyalty endeared him to friends, family, teammates, colleagues, and all who knew him. Ben was preceded in death by his beloved wife of 55 years, Jennifer Ann Kingsley Rowan, his parents, and his brother, William Hardin Rowan Jr. He is survived by his 4 children, 9 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren, all of whom were the pride and joy of his life. His legacy is reflected in the lives he touched, especially the love and admiration of his family, who cherished him deeply. Therefore, be it resolved that the Nashville Bar Association honors the life, service, and contributions of our esteemed colleague, Ben Hardin Rowan II. Be it further resolved that this memorial resolution be placed in the permanent records of the Nashville Bar Association and the In Memoriam Minute Book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, and that copies hereof be furnished to his family. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for William Prentice Cooper III will be presented by Jim Cooper.
May it please the court. 3 men named William Prentice Cooper have belonged to the Nashville Bar Association over the last 130 years, but only one was a full-time lawyer. Our grandfather, Will Cooper, used his Vanderbilt law degree in law, banking, and politics. Our father, Prentice, used his Harvard law degree to become governor of Tennessee. His eldest son, our William, used his Harvard and Vanderbilt law degrees to earn his living as a lawyer. William enjoyed every quirk of English common law, as well as arcane statutes and regulations. His classroom notes were immaculate. After graduation, he practiced law at Dickstein, Shapiro, and Morin in Washington, D.C., then returned to Cornelius, Collins, Higgins, and White in Nashville. He and Charles Hampton White traveled across Tennessee to defend school teachers who had been fired by local school boards. Mr. White and William won most of their cases because wrongful terminations usually violate Tennessee's Sunshine Law. To say that William loved the law is an understatement. It defined him. Law books, yellow legal pads, detailed briefs, endless litigation, obscure holdings, and yes, suing and defending people. He even loved title searches. He loved the title attorney and chided me for not practicing. Steeped in the classics, he could footnote in Greek and thought that res ipsa loquitur really did speak for itself. You never wanted William as opposing counsel because he would wear you out. William was a scholar who graduated magna cum laude from almost every school he attended. At his 50th Harvard reunion last year, William enjoyed seeing classmates like Merrick Garland. By then, William had a deep cough. Worried that it might be COVID, he learned that it was lung cancer. He died a few months later. He had never smoked. That was one curveball in William's life. There were others. Born on New Year's Day in 1952, he was somewhere on the autism spectrum if doctors in the 1950s had known how to diagnose it. He was incredibly loving and loyal, but had trouble showing it. He would sometimes introduce himself by saying, "You can call me Bill, but my friends call me William." He immersed himself in hobbies, his Sunday school class, and the stock market. He was so supportive of his brother's political careers that we had to curb his enthusiasm. He insisted on writing letters to the editor in our defense when we begged him not to. He died on Christmas Eve last year, hoping to see his 73rd birthday in the year 2025. There are no more William Prentice Coopers. He retired the trophy. But we need lawyers like him who are sticklers for justice and who are willing to fight to uphold the rule of law. He demanded a government of laws, not of men, and settled for nothing less, even from his brothers. Lawyers like William are sometimes hard to love, but he was a tireless guardian of integrity and justice. We need more lawyers and law firms like him. Therefore, be it resolved by the Nashville Bar Association that we honor the life, work, and spirit of William Cooper and mourn his passing. Be it further resolved that this memorial resolution be placed in the permanent records of the association and entered in the in memoriam minute book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for Miller Sullivan will be presented by Andy Goldstein.
Miller Bruce Sullivan passed away unexpectedly on January 15, 2025, at the age of 25, leaving his family, friends, and colleagues devastated by the loss of his vibrant young life. Miller will be forever cherished by his loving parents, Julian and Linda Sullivan, his sister Grace Sullivan and her fiancé, Owen Feld, his grandparents, Dr. Ann McCrary Sullivan, Carl Pete Miller, and Sharon Lane, his uncle Matthew Miller, Melissa Brennan, and many others who loved and admired him. Born March 19, 1999 in Knoxville, Tennessee, Miller was a bright light from an early age. He graduated from the Webb School of Knoxville and continued on to the University of Tennessee, where he earned his degree in political science and religious studies, graduating summa cum laude in 2020. While at UT, Miller was a proud and active member of Pi Kappa Alpha, where he served with integrity on the Standards Board and as philanthropy chair. Miller went on to earn his Juris Doctor from Washington and Lee University School of Law. In 2024, he joined Cole Law Group in Brentwood, Tennessee as an associate attorney and celebrated passing the Tennessee bar exam in October. Though his legal career was just beginning, he had already earned the admiration of his colleagues for his sharp intellect, work ethic, and grace. Miller's Christian faith was central to his life. He found strength and belonging in the community of Fountain City Presbyterian Church and in the friendships formed through UKirk College Ministry at UT Knoxville, where his faith deepened and matured. Beyond his academic and spiritual life, Miller was a devoted fan of sports and tradition. He celebrated UT's 2024 victory over Alabama with passion and rooted faithfully for the Nashville Predators, New York Mets, New York Rangers, and Chelsea Football Club. His leisure pursuits included reading, collecting vinyl records, and assembling intricate architectural Lego sets, hobbies that reflected both his creativity and his thoughtful nature. Though his life was tragically brief, Miller's impact was indelible. His kindness, devotion, and quiet strength will remain in the hearts of all who knew him. As the poet A.E. Housman wrote in To an Athlete Dying Young, "Smart lad, to slip betimes away from fields where glory does not stay. And early though the laurel grows, it withers quicker than the rose." In Miller, we saw a life already crowned with promise, one who raced ahead in kindness, brilliance, and faith. The legacy he leaves is not measured in years, but in the depth of love and admiration he inspired. Therefore, be it resolved that we honor the life, work, and enduring legacy of our colleague, Miller Bruce Sullivan. Be it further resolved that this memorial resolution be placed in the permanent records of the National Bar Association and entered into the In Memoriam Minute Book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, and that copies thereof be provided to his family this the 22nd day of May, 2025. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for Gary Rube Rubenstein will be presented by Phil Newman.
May it please the court, my name is Phil Newman, and it's one of the honors of my career to present the memorial resolution for Gary Rubenstein today. I knew Gary for the entirety of my 33-year practice of law, and this is a true privilege. The legal profession can be a hard one for its practitioners. Fortunately, there are those among us who find a way to practice law their entire career with a measure of kindness and a generosity of spirit. They understand and embrace the importance of mentorship in their relationships with younger lawyers. Above all else, their reputation for honesty and integrity earns the respect of their colleagues in the judiciary. In my career, I'm not sure I've known a lawyer who loved to practice law more than Gary did. And that was evident in the way he interacted with clients, with other lawyers, with members of the judiciary, every day. Gary was a distinguished lawyer and a member of the National Bar Association for more than 4 decades. He died on February 1st, 2025, after a relatively brief illness. Known affectionately to one and all as Rube, Gary was a nickname guy. I was Numi, his wife was Deb, his daughter was the Rach, Barbara Paratelli, his law partner was Babs. He was a nickname person. Gary's face, Rube's face, lit up with a smile every time when he saw a lawyer he knew. And rest assured, he knew almost all of them. With Rube, truly, there were no strangers, only friends he hadn't met yet. Any courtroom you went into, if you saw Rube, you would be talking to 2 or 3 lawyers, smiling and laughing. A New Englander through and through, Rube was born and grew up in Newton, Massachusetts. He loved sports, but was especially fond of baseball. If you knew Rube, he was a devoted, and I mean devoted, fan of the Boston Red Sox. If you saw him outside the office, he would always have a Red Sox cap on or a Red Sox shirt on, or be ready to talk about the Red Sox. As a child, he often took the Green Line subway to Fenway Park to watch his beloved Red Sox play. Rube earned a BA from Purdue University in 1973. He earned a JD from Vanderbilt University Law School in 1977. He was president of the law school student body from 1976 to 1977. He made friends at Vanderbilt that remained friends and colleagues throughout his life. People like Bill O'Brien, Judge Mike Binkley, the late Justice Connie Clark, Chris Harris, Darrell Townsend, and many others. Rube worked his entire career at the law firm of Shulman, Leroy, and Bennett. According to attorney Brenda Dowdle, Rube was always kind and jovial to everyone at the office, lawyers and staff alike. That's how he treated everyone. Brenda said she was never tired of seeing Rube on many occasions at the end of a workday, rounding up law clerks in the office in a softball uniform, headed out to play softball in the Nashville Bar Softball League. Rube was a leading authority and a renowned expert in the field of landlord-tenant law. He also practiced in the fields of insurance defense and surety bond issues. My friend, the Honorable Denise Andre, General Sessions Judge in Williamson County, presided over Rube's last case that he tried before he retired in 2023, a case he won, she told me. Judge Andre described Rube As a talented, intelligent, and tenacious litigator, she said he was a tireless and zealous advocate for all of his clients, and he always represented his clients to the fullest. Rube's commitment to education and advocacy extended beyond the courtroom. He loved to teach and mentor younger lawyers in his office and in the courtroom, people he came across in his daily life. For example, Rube taught a business law course at John A. Gupton College for more than 30 years and enjoyed every single class. His generosity of spirit made him an ideal mentor for younger lawyers. Rube was one of the strongest supporters and one of the founders of the Nashville Softball League. I've played in the league for close to 35 years. One of the pleasures of my life, when I visited with Rube before he died, we spent about an hour and a half or 2 hours talking, and I knew some things about the history of the league, and he told me how it started, and it was just a great conversation. I played against Rube for many years. At our tournament last year, he was the oldest active player at age 71. Rube, for many years, was a third baseman for the Independents, one of my true rivals. He played with people like John M.L. Brown, Tommy Overton, Pete Ezell, who is here today, Sam Wallace Jr., Nader Beydoun, Mac Robinson Jr., and many others. He led his team, the Independents, to multiple tournament titles in the 1990s and the 2000s, and he actually earned an all-tournament trophy last year at the end of our tournament in his final season. As much as Rube loved to compete on the softball field in the Nashville Bar Association Softball League, what he loved most of all was the camaraderie and the congeniality that he got playing in the league. The best part of playing against Rube was talking to him afterwards or having a beer with him and just talking about life, family, or the practice of law. Without question, those of us who play in the league, like Paul DeWitt, it's not going to be the same this summer and in summers to come without having Rube there. Rube is survived by his beloved wife of 40 years, also my friend, Deborah Marie Shipp, known as Deb, and his daughter Rachel Rubenstein Helding, his sister Sarah Olson, who is here today as well, his nephews Samuel and Andrew Olson, and many, many friends and colleagues. His many friends and colleagues in the Nashville Bar Association will miss his courtesy, professionalism, integrity, and sense of humor. Therefore, be it resolved by the Nashville Bar Association that today we honor the life of our brother and fellow lawyer, Gary Rube Rubenstein, and upon the passing of a lawyer's lawyer, a friend and mentor to many in our profession over a 45-year career, a loving husband to his wife of 40 years, Deb, and a devoted father to his daughter, the Rach, be it further resolved that in accordance with a directive from the Commissioner of the Nashville Bar Association Softball League, who happens to be me, the 2025 softball season will be played in honor of Gary Rube Rubenstein, in recognition of his many years of participation and in an undying love for the softball league and all of his teammates and opponents, and further that henceforth an award known as the Gary Rube Rubenstein Love of the Game Award will be presented by the Commissioner at the end of the annual tournament every year. The award is going to go to the player, not the best player, not the most skilled player, but the player who best exemplifies the sportsmanship, collegiality, and love of the game for which Rube was so well known by all who crossed paths with him on the softball field every summer for really the last 40 years. Be it further resolved that this memorial resolution be placed in the permanent records of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, and a copy furnished to Rube's wife, Deb Rubenstein. Thank you.
The memorial resolution for Doug Thorson will be presented by Sumter Camp.
May it please the court. Carl Douglas Doug Thorson was born in September 1943 and died December 8, 2024. Doug graduated from the University of the South in Sewanee and from Vanderbilt University School of Law. He started his legal career as an assistant district attorney under Tom Schreiber. His private practice included partnerships with Charlie Ray, Jude Lenahan, and Charles Williams. He also spent time as an assistant U.S. attorney during the tenures of Hal Hardin and Joe Brown, with a brief stint as an AUSA in Florida. Doug finished his legal career as an assistant federal public defender in Nashville. He retired so that the office would not have to lay off any staff member during a national budget crisis. Doug was born in Bristol, Virginia, and grew up in Norris, Tennessee. He played baseball and was president of his senior class. His father was a forester for TVA, his mother a German and English teacher. Doug served in the Merchant Marines and the U.S. Army Reserves. Doug was a multifaceted person. He was a gifted singer and often performed with a choral group. He loved the outdoors, traveling when time allowed to the property on the Michigan Upper Peninsula where his grandparents emigrated from Norway, or to East Tennessee where he grew up. Doug enjoyed hiking the Appalachian Trail and in national parks, Yosemite in particular, camping, kayaking, canoeing, trips to the beach, reading, history and political biographies, singing, music, and self-education. He went to school in France and spoke French. He loved Russian art, culture, and literature. He enjoyed tennis and photography. He loved learning. But what Doug loved most was his family, his kids and grandkids, for whom he would and did do anything. They made his life complete. As a lawyer, Doug was known for intensity, focus, and brilliance. Whether in the field with an investigator, working with an expert, or cross-examining an adverse witness, Doug had a better command of the law and facts than anyone involved in the case. He was unflappable. Whether it was a client whispering in his ear during a key witness testimony or an unexpected objection from adverse counsel, Doug would not lose focus on what was going on in the courtroom and what he needed to do to put his client in the best position. Doug tested the mettle of his adversaries and of his allies. He never lost his professionalism. He never lost his sense of proper decorum or fair play. He never took unfair advantage of an adversary. As a prosecutor, he never lost sight of the risk of injustice when the power of the sovereign was brought against an individual person, often one of limited means. As a public defender, he never forgot his responsibility to advocate as vigorously as he knew how to accomplish that person's goals. He aggressively taught himself to be a better listener so he could be sure he understood those goals. Every lawyer who practiced with him or opposed him benefited from exposure to his knowledge and integrity. The lawyers sponsoring this resolution and all lawyers blessed with the opportunity to know or work with Doug are better lawyers and better people from the experience. We are proud to honor the life, work, and legacy of our departed friend and colleague, Carl Douglas Thorson. Now, therefore, we move this Honorable Chancery Court for the 20th Judicial District of Tennessee that this resolution be accepted and spread upon the pages of the in memoriam book kept for that purpose, to the end that the memory of our friend and colleague will forever be perpetuated in the permanent record of the profession and community he served so well, and that copies thereof be furnished to his family.
The memorial resolution for Jude Lenahan will be presented by Larry and Chelsea Ashworth.
Good afternoon. It's really a privilege to be here in front of so many talented, wonderful lawyers, and a number of them were great friends and cohorts of Jude Lenahan. I've practiced law with Jude for many years and was a great friend for many years. Jude was born on December the 21st of 1944 in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and died in Nashville, Tennessee on January the 25th, 2025. He was named by his mother and father. His father's name was Harry Joseph, better known as Footsie. And every young people that were around Father Ryan during the period of time knew Footsie, because Footsie was a referee and was always involved in the sports at Father Ryan. But he was named by Footsie and his mother, Frances Filburn Lanahan, after St. Jude Thaddeus, patron saint of desperate causes and patron saint of desperate cases and lost causes. Jude was the first of 6 children born to Frances and Footsie, and they had had trouble having children, and so Footsie had gone to the priest and swore that he would go to Mass every morning the rest of his life if he would give him a son. And Jude was born about a year and a half later. So Footsie, every day, the last day of his life, went to Mass in the morning. The Lanahan family moved to Donaldson, Tennessee, where Jude was 10. Jude graduated from Holy Rosary Academy in Donaldson in 1959 and went on to attend Father Ryan High School, where he played football. He attended football practice in the summer, and Jude had to hitchhike from Donaldson to Father Ryan on Elston Place campus every day. He was only late one time during 4 years. Jude went on to become the starting fullback his senior year, helping the Irish to a record of 7-4 and appearance in the 1961 Civic Bowl before graduating as vice president and salutatorian of the class of 1962. There was only one place that Jude wanted to attend college, the University of Notre Dame, where he thrived academically and found a love for boxing. The boxing program at Notre Dame was named the Bengal Bouts because it raised money for the Holy Cross missions in Bangladesh. Jude was a 2-time Bengal Bouts champion in 1965 and 1966. The team's motto was, "Strong bodies fight, that weak bodies may be nourished." Became a central theme in Jude's life. After graduating from Notre Dame, Jude entered Vanderbilt Law School, where he began to play rugby with the Vanderbilt Rugby Football Club. After finishing law school, Jude and some of his teammates founded the Nashville Rugby Football Club, which is still going strong today. Jude remained passionate about Vanderbilt athletic programs even past his law school days. He coached Vanderbilt girls rugby team for 2 years and was a Vanderbilt basketball season ticket holder along with myself for over 20 years. Jude started his professional career working for the Hayes Law Firm in 1970. He then went to work at the Public Defender's Office under Tom Shriver, whom I also worked with, and a number of you did too. And then after leaving the DA's office, he went to Butler, Tune, and Entrican. He then worked at Barrett, Lanahan, Niffen, and Ray, and then at Williams, Lanahan, and Miller, and then with me at Ashworth and High and Lanahan in 1987. Jude finished his law career as an assistant federal public defender, retiring in 2013, in December of 2013. Outside of his legal career, Jude was a husband, a father. He served on the Green Hills YMCA Board of Directors for many years and volunteered for the Tennessee Special Olympics. He loved going on the road with his group of motorcycle friends in his custom Kawasaki Vulcan. Jude was also a voracious reader, often finishing 2 to 3 books a week. I know that to be the case from traveling with him enough when he would stay up half the night reading. He read constantly and could just do about turning pages. Sumter's laughing because she knows it's true how Jude was about being a voracious leader. His mother told me that Jude was proficient at reading by age 3, and that it had always been like that. His biggest passion was live music. He could be found at 3rd and Lindsley several times a week. Jude helped countless people throughout his 40-year legal career, treating each person he encountered with respect and empathy, regardless of their background. Not many former prosecutors can claim to have forged a friendship with someone they had sent to prison, but Jude was one of those guys. To quote a gentleman that he sent to prison for a number of years, who wrote him a letter, he said in his thank you letter, "Remember when I was down and out and sent to Litchfield," which is a prison, so we know, "you was a true friend. I never forgot what you did for me, and I never will." Jude truly lived up to his namesake, acting as a champion for the downtrodden, the marginalized people of our society. Therefore, be it resolved that we honor the life, work, and legacy of Jude Thaddeus Laddyhan. Be it further resolved that this memorial resolution be placed in the permanent record of the Nashville Bar Association and entered in the memoriam minute book of the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, and that copies thereof be furnished to his family.
The Chancery Court is pleased to grant each of the motions and accepts the memorial resolutions presented today as part of the court's permanent records. The Nashville Bar Association, by tradition, will provide copies of the resolutions to the families of each lawyer. We hope that you'll join us downstairs for lunch, and court is adjourned. Thank you.